Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
So the USS Kidd DD-661 is a World War II Fletcher-class destroyer that has had Baton Rouge as its home for the past 42 years. She hasn't had a dry dock since 1962, and it's time for her to get a little bit of work done. So we reached out to Thomas C. Marine Constructors here in Houma to conduct that overhaul. She's going to get some hull repair and some additional modifications to make her more accurate to a 1945 configuration, sandblasted and painted in a new camouflage scheme. She'll be here in Houma for approximately 8 months or more, depending upon how much more money I can fundraise, before she has to return to Baton Rouge at the high river levels next spring. So the USS Kidd was named after Admiral Isaac C. Kidd, who was the first American admiral to be killed in combat on the bridge of the USS Arizona during the December 7, 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor. She was launched in a Kearney, New Jersey shipyard in 1943, did some short service in the Atlantic, but then transited through the Panama Canal to the Pacific, where she spent the majority of the rest of her career. In World War II, she picked up the nickname Pirate of the Pacific. That started almost as soon as she was launched, because the young crew, even though the ship was named after Admiral Kidd, they saw themselves more in the mold of a Captain Kidd, the notorious pirate. And since swashbuckling pirates were the rage in American cinema back in the 1940s, this was a sign of bravado. Now, they didn't see it as being disrespectful to the memory of Admiral Kidd or to the Navy. In fact, the widow of Admiral Kidd, Mrs. Inez Kidd, thought that this sense of daring do that the crew saw in themselves would help them in the upcoming war. So she petitioned the Navy Department to allow them to fly a handmade pirate flag that they made for their first cruise out of the shipyard over to the Brooklyn Navy Yard, making USS Kidd the first and to date only ship authorized by the U.S. Navy to fly a pirate flag. She also had a pirate painted on her stack, and true to her nickname as a Pirate of the Pacific, Kidd would demand a booty whenever she performed tasks for some of the larger ships like carriers or battleships. These destroyers were a workhorse of the fleet. They ran the logistics. They would run the mail out to the bigger ships. They would, if an aviator launched off a carrier and had to go down into the water for some reason, a destroyer was just dispatched to pick them up. But before Kidd would return a downed aviator or bring mail or deliver fresh fruit to a major combatant, she'd demand a booty for it. And Kidd became famous for her pirate ways. And one of the things that she normally demanded was ice cream. Ice cream was a luxury aboard the little ships, and in the 125-degree temperatures inside a non-air-conditioned destroyer in the South Pacific, ice cream was a highly regarded commodity. So much so that eventually Kidd would steal her own ice cream machine, which we still have on board. Kidd participated in many battles of the Pacific War, usually in concert with larger task groups. But during the invasion of Okinawa in April of 1945, she was standing picket duty when she was hit by a kamikaze aircraft, a Mitsubishi Zero, that hit into her starboard side right under where you see that whale boat there. 38 men died that day, 39 if you count the Japanese pilot, and 55 were wounded aboard Kidd, but she survived the attack. She continued to fight off the rest of the kamikaze attack and would make it back to the States to be reconditioned. And the configuration that you see today is the one that she came out of the shipyards after being repaired by that kamikaze attack. The war would end. She would be decommissioned in 1946 and put in mothballs, but then called back into service in 1951 for the Korean conflict. And she stayed in service throughout the Cold War until she was finally decommissioned for the last time in 1964. She would go into the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard in mothballs, where she was selected by a delegation from Baton Rouge, was looking for something that to honor the Louisiana veterans with. And she was selected because she had gone through the least amount of modernizations and still retained much of her World War II appearance, making her the easiest one to restore back to World War II. And in fact, today, USS Kidd is the only destroyer in the world still in her World War II configuration. And out of 175 Fletcher-class destroyers, which was probably the pinnacle of destroyer design in the United States Navy in World War II, only 4 remain, 1 in Greece, 3 here in the United States, and of course Kidd here in Louisiana as in her World War II configuration. So we were really honored that Thomas C. Marine Constructors here in Houma stepped up to the plate to take on the task of fixing her up so that she can stay available to visitors to Baton Rouge or to Louisiana for another 60 years. So when the shipyard selection was finalized, we reached out to the Regional Military Museum here in Houma to see if we could collaborate them on the Kidd's arrival here. And of course, they were delighted to. We're going to be exploring ways how we can make the ship available to the residents of Houma who don't normally get up north enough to see the ship in her berth up in Baton Rouge.
Well, it is quite a big deal for us because we have cooperated with the crew of the Kidd. We will be providing them some office space if they need it at the museum while she's in dry dock, and we have an office set up for them if they need it. And it's amazing. We are talking about having a get together with them and having our landing craft participate in some of these festivities. And so we're looking forward to the coming year.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.